When you hear the term teenager, is this the imagery that comes to your mind? You know, young, carefree, reckless. If it feels good, do it. Well, I believe that the story that I'm going to share with you today will help to change your perspective. Looking at you, you're a beautiful young lady.
Thank you.
Why are you wasting your time with something that's whack as church? That's what people be thinking. Like, that's old school, that's outdated.
My happiness, let's say, it's mainly because I serve God.
Welcome to Good News. Stay tuned to hear more from this young lady. Welcome to Kingdom Huddle. My name is Wilma Parker, and as promised, the whole month of October, I said that I was going to be sharing inspirational stories in a series entitled Good News. Well, I have a special guest with me today.
My name is Ashanti Inoa, and I'm here to share my good news.
I invited Ashanti because I feel like her story is so special. And there's parts of her story that I really can relate to. She came to this country from another country, just like I did. I came from West Africa, Liberia, and she's going to share her background. But I just feel like as a young lady, this girl, I would say young lady, excuse me, I love her because she always represents herself as a young lady. There's so many images that are out there, an ideal of youth in the teenage years is supposed to be reckless, and you're not supposed to care, and you're definitely not supposed to care about God. And to me, she's living the opposite. And so that's why I'm so excited to share her story with you all. So Ashanti, go ahead and just briefly introduce yourself to the people. Who are you? How old you are? Just tell them a little bit about you.
Okay, so my name is Ashanti, and I am from Dominican Republic. I was born and raised there. I recently just turned 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I pretty much grew up in church.
Yeah.
My whole life.
Yeah. So what age did you come to America?
So I came when I was 14.
14 years old. You came much older than I. I think I came when I was about 7 or 8, between 7 to maybe 10. I can't remember the exact age,
wow.
But I came in elementary age, and you came as a teenager. So
in high school.
For a moment, can you just tell people who aren't from another country, don't quite understand that transition? Because I understand it. It for me was a shock. It really was a shock coming to America. But tell me a little bit about that transition for you.
So for me, it was a little bit harder, I would say, because I was older. I already had friends there. I grew up there my whole life. Mm-hmm. My whole family was there too. So when I came, it was kind of like a culture shock. Although I was already in a school where we learned English since we were babies, and we grew up with both languages being spoken to at school all day long. And when we came here, it was totally different, culture-wise.
Yeah, and the thing, I'm so glad that you brought this up, because a lot of people, I know for Africa, they always assume, oh, you spoke English back there? I'm like, yeah. There's plenty of people who live in different countries, and English is one of the main language that you are taught, at an early age. So before we actually talk about life transitioning to America, how was your life before then? Were you dirt poor? Did you live on the streets? Were you hungry? Please tell them.
Okay, so I would say I think we were medium class, I would say that. We lived in a residential, apartments and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they weren't because here I know apartments are government sometimes.
Sometimes.
So over there we just lived in a private area, and I went to private school, which over there it's not there's private school everywhere, so it's not oh, you're rich, it's just private school.
Is public school available back home?
It is,
okay.
But it's for the least fortunate, let's say it like that.
Okay.
So my school was right in front of my house, so I would just walk every day.
Wow.
And it was bilingual, so most our assignments and courses were in English, and just some of them were in Spanish.
Gotcha. Okay, so Ashanti, you mentioned that it was a culture shock. I know for me it was a culture shock as well. And One of the reasons why it was a shock for me is because I assumed that people would know that everybody from Africa wasn't like what they saw on TV with flies coming off their face and half naked, but the images that were shown in America wasn't really represented from my life. And the thing that shocked me the most was the rejection that I received. I really thought that the Black Americans would embrace me, because I look like you. Yeah, I may not talk like you, but I look like you. And that was the complete opposite for me, is because it was more so the Caucasian or the Hispanics who show interest in me and say, oh, who are you? Where are you from? So that was one of the major shocks for me. So let's go into the culture shock that happened for you.
So because I come from a different country, let's say Latin American, so I did speak English. People just assumed, I guess, that I didn't speak English, and that was I can't understand you. Like, I hear you. Like,
right.
I know you're talking about me.
Yeah.
And mostly, many of the immigrants around this area specifically, they're Mexican. Mm-hmm. And they're Honduran, Salvadoran. But people would say I was Mexican. They just put you in that
They just
boxing.
assume. Right,
yeah.
right.
And they're like, what part of Mexico are you from? I'm like, I'm not from Mexico. I'm Dominican. And they're like, what is that? Like, isn't that part of Mexico? I'm like, no, there's 21 Latin American countries. So people just assume things. And they would like also, some people were like rude because I had an accent. So they would immediately be like, what are you saying? What are you trying to say? And they'll act like they don't understand, but they actually do. Mm-hmm. So that was one of my biggest things.
So was it a struggle for you to fit in with your peers? Because teenage years is a struggle by itself. And you talking about coming to a whole different country. How was that? Like, was it a struggle for you to connect with others, to blend in? Were you part of the in crowd, or how was that?
So I would have to say that at first, I came here my freshman year of high school. So when I came in, I was already like part of high school. And I would have to say people treat me like I was part of like a zoo. Like people would look at me like, you're Dominican? Like, how is that like?
When you say people, are you talking about people who are actually from Mexico or
no, like everyone?
Caucasian, everybody? Okay.
Everybody, because at my school there was no Dominicans. I was the only one, because I asked my teacher, like, are there more Dominicans here? And I was in ESL at the time, so nobody was from Dominican Republic but me. So everybody was like, what is that like down there? Like, is it different than here? I'm like, yeah, it is, but it's not too different. Like, it's not that crazy.
So, Ashanti, I want to shift for a moment, because I know you and I've seen you in action in the church. One thing that I admire about you at a young age is that you've always lived your faith out loud. You've never been ashamed to say, you're a church girl, you like being at church, you actually sing on the praise and worship team. Do you do some work with the youth as well, as a leader or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, but you're very involved in church. Now, looking at you, you're a beautiful young lady.
Thank you.
Why are you wasting your time with something that's whack as church? That's what people be thinking, like, that's old school, that's outdated. Why are you proud about that?
Yeah, and I would have to say, adding to everything else, is that one of my biggest things for standing out at my school was because I was Christian. And not because I was like Dominican or anything, because I started losing like popularity because I told them I was part of church and my parents were pastors and stuff.
Wow.
So it wasn't because...
So it was out, what do you mean losing popularity? Did they actually come out and say, what did they say?
So like I said, like at the beginning when I first came, everybody was like I was part of the zoo or something. And they were like, wow, that's crazy. Like, I want to be friends with you. And they would talk to me just because they wanted to figure out about me. And like a bunch of people I didn't even know would come talk to me. And I'm like, are you the Dominican girl? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then like sophomore year, everybody kind of disappeared. Like there was nobody that was interested in talking to me or anything. And it was because I told them I'll go to church.
That is crazy to me. So
yes.
Automatically, just because you went to church, it wasn't because you were trying to push the Bible down their throats. You was just saying.
No, I just told them I go to church, and everybody was like, "Oh wow, that's crazy." But I would have to say my biggest, like my happiness, let's say, it's mainly because I serve God. Like I've been able, I think at 18, I feel proud of the person I've become so far. I feel like, of course, there's room to grow and things like that. But I am part of the worship band. I lead the worship team at Spanish Church, and I'm part of the youth leadership group team. And I am happy that I can, out of my experiences that are not like too much, because I'm only 18, but I can impact the lives of other young people.
Yes. That is really awesome to me that what it sounds like to me is you've identified what your purpose is and you're actively walking in your purpose. So tell me, where do you see yourself a few years down the road? What do you feel like God is really calling you to do?
So that's an interesting question, actually. I think I see myself, I want to have my own business. So I feel like I see myself in like 5 years from now having at least starting my own business and stuff. And I also feel like a long time ago, it was actually prophesied to me, kind of, that I was gonna have like a youth, like a lot of youth in my band. So I feel like we're gonna see 5 years from now, the church is gonna be a lot bigger than what it is right now, and there's gonna be a lot more people in the band, right? Also, so
that's really inspiring to me, because we constantly hear that church is outdated, that the youth no longer want to be connected to any ministry, and a lot of churches are struggling because they feel like they don't know how to get their youth back into the church doors. If you were a leader, what's a message that you can give not only to those who are in leadership, how to really meet those youth and address their needs, but also a message to your age group as far as the importance of being part of a church, being part of a church family, and not only being there, but being involved. So what would you say about that?
So I would mainly say to other leadership is that, yes, teenagers make mistakes, young people make mistakes, but don't treat them like the mistakes they've made.
That's good.
Because I feel like that you're like pushing them aside. If not, you should be like pulling them in and treating them like adults. Because I feel like most of them want to be treated like that. I wanted to be treated like that, not like I don't know what I'm doing, or like you're dumb, you don't deserve to give your opinion here.
Yeah.
But also to the young people, I want to encourage you that church is not outdated. Church is actually pretty fun if you get involved and flow with it. Because I understand when like people are telling you like you gotta go to church, like you gotta repent, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. But one thing that I've learned is that it's all about perspective. So if you see the rules that the church has, which in reality are protections to you,
that's good.
that's how you get better at things. You just gotta look at things differently.
That's good.
And get involved.
Get involved.
There's a lot of fun things that happen at church, like a lot of fun ministries you can serve in, a lot of things.
Yeah. As an immigrant coming to this country, tell me, when you were in school, what are some of the challenges or stories that you can share with us, just painting the picture of how your life was when you came to this country and what you had to overcome in order to graduate it?
Yes, so I remember that sometimes when I was in school and we were in class, we would watch videos, and they were from different countries and things, and people had accents in the video. So like one time they played a video of like people speaking in, I think it was African.
Okay.
I don't know the language, but they were speaking something like that. And then someone told me that's what you speak Like, they told me that's how you sound right now. And I'm like, oh, thanks. So one of my friends actually, she was like, why are you saying that? Like, she was about to fight with them. And I'm like, chill, it's okay. It's fine, I don't care. But I remember that used to happen a lot to me. Like, people would make fun of me for my English. And I would not want to speak in front of, like, the whole school. Especially when teachers called you out and they're like, hey, come stand up, can you say something? I'm like, no.
I remember those.
Yes, so those were one of the things that happened. And also, like, teachers, sometimes they were like, it's not that they were like racist, but they were just like, they just didn't want to accept the different cultures, if that makes sense. So they were like Hispanic people, they would categorize them like in one area. So we had, of course, there's Hispanic people that don't speak English. So he would put me like, you don't speak English, so go over there. You can't do it. And I'm like, look, I wanna do this right. And I remember I would ask them questions and they're like, go ask your other Hispanic friends. And I'm like, oh, okay, you can't explain it to me. And he's like, no, it's just because I want you to understand. I'm like, I understand you if you tell me in English. And he's like, but go ask them. And I'm like, all right. And I remember that one time I was talking to that teacher and I told him, look, I'm going to get 100. And I want to get my name on the board. There was like a wall where you get to write your name if you did something good in school. And I told him, I want to write my name on that board. And then he's like, if you get 100 in this test, I'll
Now, what subject is this? What subject?
This was science.
Science, okay.
So I told him, hey, I'm gonna get it. You'll see. I got a 99.
Uh-oh.
I got a 99. I didn't get to write my name on the wall at that time, but in the future I did. And it was because in math. So I think it turned out the way I kind of wanted it to be.
Right.
And I think overall I did pretty good in school. I was part of National Honor Society when I was in my junior year, and I had an average of 3.5 GPA.
Awesome.
Which is, I feel like I did good for not coming from this country. And some other people, like Americans, they were doing worse than me in school. So I feel like I was fortunate enough and put in the work to do so.
Yeah. One thing that I see in you is resilience. Whenever you go through stuff, it makes you tougher. It makes you more determined to prove people wrong. I remember when I first came to the country, and just like you, far as just the gap in, well, for me, it was a gap in education, because in Liberia at the time, education wasn't public, it wasn't free, so your parents had to pay in order for you to go to school. So my parents didn't have the school fee, so it was plenty of times that I just missed what I needed for as the basic stuff. And I remember that my teacher was just like, we're gonna have to put you in LD, which is learning disability classes. And I was just like, I did not want that label. I worked my tail off. I was just like, I know I'm not LD, I'm not learning disabled. I'm a little bit behind on certain things just because I don't have the foundation, but I fought for it to the point that I proved my teacher wrong. So she could not put me in a learning disabled class, because that's what kids with physical handicaps. So I think when you come from a different country into this country, it forces you to work harder, to prove more, to do more. And even your family expectation is that you are supposed to excel. There's no exception to that. So,
and that just makes me grateful for like what my mom did, because I know school was expensive, especially that school, and it was like sometimes it would be a struggle for her to like pay, especially when my sister started going to school, because she had to pay for two. So it was tuition plus the books, which were like too much, plus uniform, plus lunch meal. It was a lot for her. But I am thankful that she was able to put me in that school that set me up for success in my future. And I mean, I can't be more grateful for that.
So Ashanti, you really provided some great advice to the younger generation and to the older generation, as far as those who are part of a church. Now, you are part of the Good News series. So, could you tell us what is the good news about your story?
So, the good news about my story is that although I moved from a different country and there were some challenges that arise and some things that came at me, I feel like God guided me along the way, because I came at the age of 14, which at that age you don't really know what you want to do, who you are. So God guided me and protected me to not be led by the crowd I was hanging out with, either at school or anything. I feel like he set me apart from that. And he brought me to this point where I can encourage you that you can do and find your identity in Christ, and no matter what challenges come at you and what people say about you, you can do anything through Christ.
Yes. Thank you, Ashanti, for that great advice and just summing up your story, because the thing that I want us to take away from is that don't throw this younger generation away. We have some solid leaders that are coming up, and we as adults have to be able to identify those leaders and welcome them to the table and say, you know what, I see you, I see your value, and I see that you are somebody who, like she said, is set apart, and I want to partner with you. This new age that we're in, church is not the thing, but I believe the reason why people feel that way is because there are certain things that we're doing that's outdated, and that thing is we're overlooking them. There's plenty of Ashantis in your church, in your neighborhood, So it's all about us being able to have that perspective and see them for the value that they bring to the table. So I'm so thankful that I met Ashanti and her parents. They're awesome people. Her younger sister is a superstar in her own right, so there's so much more for this young lady. And I'm telling you all, look out for her, because she is a young leader that's on fire for God, genuinely. This is not a religion thing. This is a relationship thing with her. And I love that about her, that she's passionate about God and she's not ashamed about it. And whenever you put God first in anything you do, the sky is the limit. It's not even the limit. So I'm looking out for this young lady. I could say I knew her when. So I'm super excited. Thank you so much for joining. Is there any final words that you want to say?
Well, thank you for having me. And I want to encourage all of you to follow what God has for you and forget about what everybody says.
Amen. See you later. Bye.
Ashanti is the full package. She has beauty, she has brains, and she's talented. But most of all, she has an intimate relationship with God. Watch out, world. Here she comes. You are looking at a world changer.